I have a story to tell you. January 22nd, 2024. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Because you're beautiful. That's why. So, I had gone to unsecure a secured credit card that I have. And they went through the numbers and they found out that I have a $21,000 debt that apparently went into collections, and they were not able to unsecure it for that reason. And I'd like to explain what that is. So really quickly, a secured credit card is where you have to have the amount that the credit card's good for in cash in an account connected to that card, and just over 10% has to stay in that account at all times that you cannot access. That's why I wanted to unsecure the credit card after a year so I could access that. It's $95. The credit card is just for $1,000. So this $21,000 debt, it comes from when I was living in Los Angeles. The government there, they let the city, they let the state go to the opposite of heaven. During lockdowns, God told me that society is going to begin to unravel. And that began to happen. Open prostitution, substance use with pipes out in the middle of everywhere. Open crime, open violence, and violence in places like Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, where you never saw that. And the Lord also told me, "You will teach for me, you will preach for me, and you will fight for me." Which I thought, who's saying this? Huh? What? Well, that's happened because in our poor neighborhood where I lived, the society unraveling was worse. The effects of the lockdowns, these immoral, illegal lockdowns, were devastating on poor folks because their society, their social life was undone. They couldn't go out, go to a state, or even a lot of poor folks couldn't even go to Orange County where the lockdowns weren't really enforced. Orange County's, it's like a Southern California county that just maintained itself conservative. Anyway, so this is what caused all of this open crime, and because people were living as though they were under house arrest. So it was like they were being imprisoned, but they did nothing wrong. So we had all the stuff that I just described was happening in my neighborhood, and I began to fight that. The Lord gave me multiple prophecies. One of them was that he would get the claws of the Mexican cartels out of the United States. He told me that the Mexican cartels have influence at all levels of government. This was after Biden took office. And I use that word took euphemistically. The Lord told me that Mexican cartels have influence at all levels of law enforcement as well. So this was exceedingly pronounced in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood became a major drug trafficking corridor in Southern California, just outside of downtown Los Angeles. And the city really is run by Mexican cartels. I know people may not understand that, but it's true. So I was fighting all of this, and got into fight with gang members. I would cuss out gang members, drug dealers, anyone trying to be violent in the alley, in our parking lot. I saw so much drug deals go down that I was just shocked, even to the point where they would send little kids out there to hand baggies through a car because our parking lot became like a drive-through, except you weren't picking up fast food. And so they came after me. They completely took over our apartment. Our apartment had like the kind of drug dealing that you would see like with cartels. This was not. This was pounds and pounds and pounds. And I was hit and attacked so hard because they could never get to me. They tried to break into my room twice. Someone tried to break into my room. I'd get threats, stuff thrown at me. People attempted to get at me to beat me up. Death threats. I had all kinds of stuff. So they allowed our apartment to be taken over. And eventually, by this time, I was already an overt TI. Didn't quite know it, but it was pronounced already. When I started fighting all of the vice that was going on, and they began to hit me with stuff that's beyond what the vast majority of TIs have ever described. And I ended up having to leave my place and go out on the street. I went to Florida, was homeless for 2 months. My rent was still being paid for those 2 months because it was directly taken out of my account. I canceled that when I found out, not fully understood. Like at this time, I still didn't even know what the TI program meant. I just knew that there was craziness going on in California. More than just the TI program, by the way. And so I knew I couldn't go back to California, particularly Los Angeles. So I canceled the direct deposit. They tried to rob me. They changed the name of the online company that was taking the money out of my account. And so they had all my account information, were able to still take the money out. I battled, I fought it, and I got the money back. But they allowed our apartment to be taken over by the Mexican cartel and drug dealers and all this stuff. So for years, they were trying to collect rent. Part of it, I give God 110% of the credit and still believe to this day, I don't know, the Lord didn't tell me this, but I'm hoping and praying that He is going to let me still be able to go back to Los Angeles and just get all my stuff, that He's going to make a way for that they never actually cleaned out my room. I know that for about 3 or 4 years they didn't. That $21,000, my rent was like just over $600, maybe it was like $611 or $614. So that's how month after month after month, that ended up equaling that much. And it may be that because the city of Los Angeles was the last place in the country that lifted the eviction moratorium. Like you couldn't evict anyone in Los Angeles. So maybe that's why they didn't just evict me, and which is a blessing. I would not have been able to get into public housing if I had an eviction on my record. But they're not going to get a cent from me. They're not going to get 1 red cent from me after what they did. But they did affect me. Now, fortunately for me, praise God's holy name, I've never bought anything on credit for like 25 years. That's just not how I do things. I wanted a credit card because I felt that, okay, the Lord's going to be bringing me money. And I don't know when, I'm convinced of it, and I'm going to be setting up trusts. And I had the impression that if I had a credit card history as opposed to just a debit card history, that would make it easier to set up these trusts. Because this money that God's going to give me is going to be given out. It's not going to be for me. Just a tiny percent of it is going to be for me. So I now realize apparently that's not really going to make a difference. I don't really need a credit card. So I just canceled the credit card. After a year, I should have been able to unsecure it, but I was not able to. So they did get me there. They weren't able to rob me like they tried to rob me 3.5 years ago. They wound up having to give the money back because I had already told B of A they're no longer allowed to directly take money out of my account. And so, and then when I got the money back, I ended up just closing the account. So there was no account for them to try to steal from me again. But that's the story. And God didn't let him get away with it. And as far as this 21,000 BS, they allowed the situation to take hold in Los Angeles, and to get so out of control to where they would do this, hit me with DEWs. I'm telling you guys, yes, TIs who have been overt TIs for maybe 20 to 30 years, they've heard of my situation, but they've never even gone through it. It was that extreme, but they've heard of it. Most TIs haven't even heard of what I went through, and I don't really want to go into it. I've gone through it in other videos, but God's going to redeem this whole situation, and that's the story. I really want to access that $95 because I want to use it to stock up on food because God's judgment's coming. I don't know when, but I believe it's going to be soon. So I don't want to wait, and I want to use as much money as I can to buy food. Yeah, primarily. So that's my story. I send out my love to all y'all beautiful born again TIs. Pay your tithes and offerings. Make sacrifices. Don't make excuses. And pray 2 hours, 24 minutes a day, and watch God rock this program. He's making this program more and more like it's a pathetic joke for me. Praise his holy name. And they're trying. They're really, today they really put an effort. I altogether probably bicycled like 12 miles, and they did a good job of doing the gang stalking and boxing me in, but the Lord didn't let it affect me. Praise his holy name. And Cheyenne, if they feel like doing a good job, they'll do a good job. If they don't, they won't. Sometimes there's not that much gang stalking, even vehicular. But sometimes they do a very excellent job. It doesn't matter. My God is way more excellent in his ability to shield me and protect me, and for it not to get me upset or to respond, not even outwardly, like I'm pretending like it's not bothering me, but inwardly to where it's kind of like, okay. This is happening. This is what they do. This is what targeting is. I'm a TI. This is what they're supposed to do. I accept it. Love accepts all things patiently. And the Lord makes me do that, not because I'm righteous. I send my love out to all y'all beautiful born again TIs. God bless.